Mr. Faisal Manap.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, my speech today calls for the government to make motorcycle ownership more affordable, in particular for fellow Singaporeans who are reliant on this mode of transportation for their livelihood. Largely, my speech will focus on reviewing, making necessary and reasonable changes to the current vehicle quota system VQS, namely Category D of the Certificate of Entitlement, better known among Singaporeans in short as COE. Additionally, I will also like to raise two other related proposals. The vehicle quota system was introduced and implemented in 1990 with the objective of regulating the growth of the vehicle population in Singapore. Under the current VQS system, the COE are categorized into A, B, C, D, and E. Categories A and B are for cars. Category C is for goods, vehicle, and buses. Category D is for motorcycles, and E for all vehicles except motorcycles. Sir, the COE for motorcycles has been getting more attention compared to other vehicles in recent years, and the attention has heightened in the recent 2 months due to the skyrocketing prices. I have brought up the issue of motorcycle COE multiple times in this chamber in the form of PQ and COS cards. This time around, I'm tabling this matter as an adjournment motion, as I strongly feel that this issue needs to be conveyed, explained, and discussed more in depth with the hope that MOT will consider reviewing motorcycle COE system, which is Cat D. At this point, I would like to reiterate that the intention of calling for this review is mainly to benefit our fellow Singaporeans who depends on motorcycles to feed their family. Sir, let us explore the trend for motorcycle COE over the years. In 2001, the lowest COE prices for Cat D was $509 in December, while highest was $1,313 in January. 10 years on, 2011, the lowest price was in December, $1,481, and highest in March, $2,534. This year, 2021, the COE price in January was $7,501, and it has skyrocketed in the last couple of months to $8,899 and $9,689 for August and September, respectively. According to MOM's statistic for 2020, there were 228,000 residents who declared themselves as engaging in own account work, i.e., they are self-employed or freelancers. A number of these residents are likely to be motorcyclists engaged in delivery and dispatch services with one of the existing platforms. In addition, there are riders who are direct employees of various companies. There are no clear indicators on the number of Singaporeans who are riding commercially. However, browsing through the job listing for riders on the My Careers Future website, I noticed that the monthly salaries offered range between $1,000 and $2,500. That is to say that someone who wants to purchase a Class 2B motorcycle so that he can earn an income as a dispatch rider will need to set aside 4 to 10 months of a salary he has not yet earned just to afford the latest COE for a motorcycle. When we take into consideration the road tax, insurance, and other costs involved in purchasing a new bike, the number can go up to 14 months, more than a year of working just to afford a vehicle that is needed. There is the option of second-hand motorcycles. However, those are not cheap either. A 3-year-old motorcycle can go for around $10,000. A motorcycle with 3 years left on the COE can cost around $5,000. After buying a second-hand motorcycle, the new owner will soon be faced with a decision on whether to renew the COE when it expires. And again, the difficult choice has to be made between buying a new machine or a second-hand vehicle. They can also rent motorcycles, but it is not a sustainable option in the medium to long term, given the rental rates of around $70 daily. 1 month's salary does not even cover the rental costs, and this is before we consider the cost of petrol, parking, ERP, and more. The COE remains the largest cost factor in the purchasing of a motorcycle. In this regard, I'm making a few proposals towards improving the COE system for Cat D. I'm mindful that the ultimate goal is not to lead to an increase in the number of motorcycles on the road. Rather, my intention is to improve the well-being of our fellow Singaporeans who rely on riding motorcycles to make a living. I'm reiterating my call for the Ministry of Transport to consider categorizing the COE for motorcycles into classes according to engine capacity, similar to how the licenses to ride motorcycles are categorized. This is a proposal I first mentioned during the card I filed at the 2016 SOAS debate. I'm also renewing my call for the number of COEs available for each category to be allocated in accordance with the percentage of these vehicles on our roads. Under the current practice, all motorcycles are grouped into a single category D, regardless of its engine capacity. When I raised this point in 2016, then Senior Minister of State for Transport, Ng Chee Meng, had replied that given that 70% of the motorcycle population in Singapore had an engine capacity below 200 cc, introducing such a differentiation would lead to rigidity and subsequently lead to higher volatility in the COE prices for motorcycles. This volatility has already set in, as we can see from the COE prices for motorcycles, especially in the last few months. In this regard, I call upon the Ministry of Transport to consider my proposal towards making a proper and fairer allocation of quotas among the 3 different classes of motorcycles according to the demand of the respective classes. So my second proposal to MOT is to consider abolishing COE bidding for Class 2B motorcycles, 200cc and below, and to replace it with a balloting system. This is to ensure that the cost of motorcycles ownership in this category is affordable for those who need it for income. In 2014, I filed a PQ asking if the COE for Class 2B motorcycle can be abolished, and the reply was that the COE is needed to regulate motorcycle population. I have thus refined my proposal to propose balloting as a substitute for the bidding process. I understand in 2013, then Minister of State for Transport, Josephine Teo, had replied to a parliamentary question about a balloting system for the COE for cars and said that it was not viable as it could encourage a black market. Minister Teo also said that it was not possible to set a price for balloted COEs to deter speculators and yet remain feasible for genuine buyers. That was for cars. However, I believe that the introduction of a balloting system with conditions attached similar to what is done for BTO flats could be a way to regulate the Class 2B motorcycle population. Like BTO buyers, prospective owners of 2B motorcycles are more likely to be first-time buyers with a genuine need. However, if the Ministry of Transport intends to retain the bidding system, I would like to ask the Ministry to consider allowing motorcycle buyers to bid for COE under their own name rather than through the dealership. This is to address the issue of possible speculation by dealers. The Land Transport Authority has maintained there is no evidence of speculation. However, the number of expired or unused Cat D COEs and the fact that the COE prices rose significantly in the May 2021 exercise, despite the higher number of motorcycle COEs on offer, are signs that LTA may need to update its information. Next, I would like to propose that MOT consider allowing the extension or renewal of another 5 years for motorcycles whose COE was initially renewed for only 5 years, provided that the motorcycle is used primarily for the earning of income. The current practice is that a motorcycle's COE can be renewed either 1, for a continuous period of 10 years or 2, for 5 years only. However, if the SUI is renewed for 5 years, it cannot be renewed for another 5 years upon the expiry of the first 5 years. I understand that this additional extension is only available for Category C vehicles, that is, goods vehicles and buses, and is subject to the statutory lifespan for this class of vehicles currently set at 20 years. Given that there is a segment of our population that depend on their motorcycles for work, I am asking for the same flexibility offered to owners of good vehicles and buses to be extended to the riders as well. In addition to the changes I proposed to the SUI system for Cat D, I have 2 other proposals which I believe will benefit Singaporeans who rely on a motorcycle for work. First, I would like to reiterate my call for the preferential additional registration fee, PAF, rebate for motorcycle with additional registration fee, ARF. I note that then Minister for Transport, Khaw Boon Wan, had said that given the ARF for motorcycles are about 15% of the open market value, OMV, the PAF rebate value would be too low to incentivize deregistration for motorcycle owners. But I'm of the view that most motorcycle owners who choose to deregister their vehicles early would still value receiving the PAF rebate, given that most of them do not earn a high income. There should be also consistency in the payment of ARF and the PAF rebates for all vehicles. So my second proposal is to have allocated areas for dispatch and delivery riders to temporarily park their motorcycles while they are making their deliveries in the Central Business District, CBD area, regional business hubs such as Changi Business Park and International Business Park, to name a few, as well as shopping malls located in housing estate, especially in the public housing estates. Most of the time, dispatch and delivery riders do not park at the prepaid car parks at the area mentioned above because they will or might incur parking charges, and also due to time factor, which both will affect their earnings. In situation where they are being issued a fine for indiscriminate parking, it will further add into the expenses. Additionally, indiscriminate parking also poses a safety hazard for other road users. Having a designated area for dispatch and delivery riders to park their motorcycle would reduce incidents of indiscriminate parking, enhance safety of pedestrians and other road users, and is also time-saving for these riders. In short, an allocation of such area will enhance the work routine and life circumstances for these riders. So, I will now speak in our national language. Hari ini, saya ingin mengetengahkan masalah yang dihadapi oleh golongan warga negara Singapura yang bergantung kepada penggunaan motosikal untuk menyara kehidupan mereka dan juga keluarga mereka tersayang. Terutamanya, saya akan menumpukan perhatian kepada sistem sijil hak pemilikan kenderaan yang lebih dikenali sebagai COE. Khususnya, saya akan mencadangkan beberapa cara untuk memperbaiki sistem COE untuk kategori D, iaitu bagi motosikal. Saya pernah beberapa kali bertanya dan juga menyuarakan pendapat dan cadangan saya berkenaan dengan COE bagi motosikal dalam Dewan ini. Saya akan mengetengahkan perkara ini sekali lagi kerana isu COE motosikal membabitkan serta memberi impak kepada pemilik motosikal yang perlukan kenderaan mereka ini untuk mata pencarian bagi menyara kehidupan mereka dan keluarga mereka. Harga COE untuk kategori D telah terus meningkat dan makin melambung pula baru-baru ini. Pada tahun 2001, harga termurah ialah $509 di bulan Disember dan yang tertinggi pula tercatat di bulan Januari dengan $1,313. 10 tahun kemudian, pada tahun 2011, harga termurah tercatat di bulan Disember iaitu $1,481 dan harga tertinggi pula di bulan Mac iaitu $2,534. Pada tahun ini, harganya mencecah $7,501 pada bulan Januari dan terus melambung ke $8,899 pada bulan Ogos dan $9,689 bagi September. Tuan, saya ada beberapa cadangan untuk memperbaiki sistem COE untuk motosikal. Pertama sekali, saya ingin mencadangkan agar COE untuk motosikal diperbahagikan kepada 3 kategori, selaras dengan pembagian yang sedia ada dalam sistem lesen monogam motosikal. Selanjutnya, saya cadangkan bahawa jumlah COE yang tersedia diperuntukkan selaras dengan peratusan penggunaan motosikal jalan raya dalam setiap kategori. Ini bukan suatu cadangan yang baru. Pada 2016, Menteri Kanan Kementerian Pengangkutan pada masa itu telah menjawab yang langkah tersebut akan menyebabkan ketegangan dan selanjutnya ketidaktentuan dalam harga COE untuk motosikal. Namun telah jelas perkara yang disebutkan Menteri tetap berlaku kebelakangan ini dalam sistem COE yang sedia ada. Oleh itu, saya berharap Kementerian Pengangkutan akan mempertimbangkan cadangan saya agar kita boleh mewujudkan satu sistem yang lebih adil untuk penunggang motosikal di Singapura. Cadangan kedua adalah pembatalan sistem pembinaan COE untuk motosikal di peringkat 2B, iaitu motosikal yang menggunakan enjin di bawah 2,200 cc dan menggantikannya dengan suatu sistem pemilihan tersekat. Saya menyedari yang Kementerian Pengangkutan pernah menjawab satu soalan berkenaan dengan sistem pemilihan ini untuk COE kereta dan telah menjelaskan bahawa sistem tersebut akan menyebabkan masalah seperti pasar gelap dan juga menyatakan kesulitan dalam penentuan harga yang wajar untuk COE. Pendapat saya, kami harus pertimbangkan penciptaan sistem yang serupa dengan sistem yang digunakan dalam pembelian flat BTO. Pihak yang ingin membeli flat BTO dan pihak yang ingin membeli motosikal di peringkat 2B, kedua-duanya pasti pembeli kali pertama. Jika Kementerian Pengangkutan tak ingin membuat perubahan pada sistem pembinaan yang sedia ada, saya ingin cadangkan yang setiap bakal pembeli boleh menyertai pembinaan dan bukan bergantung kepada para penjual motosikal saja. Langkah ini boleh mengurangkan kesan buruk akibat spekulasi oleh pihak penjual motor. Meskipun penguasa pengangkutan darat terus menyatakan yang tiada bukti mengenai spekulasi tersebut, jumlah COE yang telah diperolehi tetapi tak digunakan dan juga peningkatan harga COE pada bulan Mei yang lalu meskipun jumlah COE yang ditawarkan lebih tinggi menandakan kemungkinan masalah ini nyata wujud. Seterusnya saya ingin mencadangkan pembaruan atau pengelanjutan COE yang telah diperbaharukan untuk 5 tahun sahaja boleh dibenarkan untuk motosikal yang digunakan terutama dalam tugasan. Sementara ini, pembaruan atau pengelanjutan tersebut hanya ditawarkan untuk kenderaan dalam kategori C, iaitu kenderaan mengangkut barang dan bas. Selain berkenaan COE, saya ingin mengemukakan dua lagi cadangan. Pertama, saya mencadangkan bahawa yuran pendaftaran tambahan khas PAF diadakan juga bagi penunggang motosikal yang membatalkan pendaftaran motosikal mereka awal. Kementerian Pengangkutan pernah menjelaskan oleh kerana ARF untuk motosikal hanya 15% daripada nilai pasaran terbuka OMV, jumlah PAF yang boleh diraihkan oleh penunggang agak tidak cukup tinggi untuk mendorong mereka membatalkan pendaftaran motosikal mereka. Memandangkan kebanyakan daripada mereka yang bertugas sebagai penghantar barang tidak menimba gaji yang tinggi, menerima bayaran PAF walaupun jumlah yang sederhana akan dihargai. Lebih penting lagi, dasar harus dikenakan secara konsisten untuk semua kenderaan. Kedua, saya mencadangkan yang tempat-tempat khas harus diadakan bagi penggunaan para penghantar di daerah seperti kawasan pusat perniagaan CBD, hub perniagaan serantau seperti Changi Business Park dan juga kawasan pusat membeli belah yang terletak di estet perumahan, terutama sekali estet perumahan awam. Para penunggang sering mengelakkan daripada menggunakan tempat meletak kenderaan yang disediakan kerana ingin menjimatkan perbelanjaan dan masa. Dalam situasi di mana penunggang disaman kerana meletakkan motosikal sebarangan, jumlah saman akan menjejaskan lagi penyeraan kos kehidupan mereka. Dengan mengadakan tempat-tempat letak motosikal khas bagi para pengantar di kawasan sebegini, ia dapat membantu mereka menjalankan tugas tanpa menjejaskan keselamatan awam, menjimatkan masa penghantaran, sekaligus memperbaiki dan meringankan rutin pekerjaan dan kehidupan mereka. So in conclusion, the Singapore government has set targets for the number of vehicles on the road, including for motorcycles. Towards this end, policies such as the COE, the ARF, ERP, and such have been introduced and continuously refined towards this goal. At the same time, we must recognize there is a segment of our population that relies on motorcycles to make a living, and they have been affected negatively by the impact of the policies. In my speech, I have proposed several refinements to existing policy. Some of these are not new, but they have been updated. I hope the government will look into this proposal towards improving the condition of our fellow Singaporeans who have had to endure challenging circumstances. Thank you, sir.
Mr. B. Yam King.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the high motorcycle certificates entitlement or COE prices since bidding resumed in July 2020 have considerably led to concerns of several members of this House. Besides Mr. Faisal, various members including Mr. Chong Ki-hyong, Mr. Sito Ipin, Ms. Joan Pereira, and Mr. Abdul Samad have raised similar concerns and offered various suggestions. We have also heard similar feedback from members of public and the industry, and have responded both in this House and through the media. In land-scarce Singapore, unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of letting everyone own private vehicles, be it cars or motorcycles. The COE system is a market-based mechanism that allows us to allocate limited resources efficiently. While it is not a perfect solution, the system has generally worked, and COE prices fluctuate based on supply and demand, as should be the case. That said, we are mindful that motorcycle owners could have different needs from owners of other vehicle types. This is why there is a separate Category D for motorcycle buyers so that they need not compete with commercial vehicle and private car owners. So unlike the other categories, Cat D COEs do not contribute to Cat E COEs or the open category, which means that the quota of COEs is determined largely by the number of deregistered COEs in the preceding quarter. The high prices observed for motorcycle COEs of late indicate strong demand. It will indeed be a cause for concern if the COE prices are propped up because dealers are bidding for more COEs than they need and are not using them. However, we have observed very high utilization rates over the past year, which suggests that the higher premiums are a result of higher demand. Let me explain. Successful bidders of Cat D COEs are issued temporary COEs or TCOEs, which need to be used to register motorcycles. And these TCOEs will expire if they are not used by the bidders to purchase and register motorcycles within the 6-month validity period, and the bid deposits will be forfeited. Since COE bidding resumed in July 2020, the proportion of utilized TCOEs has been high at approximately 99%, as compared to the historical average of about 91%. This remains the case even for the TCOEs that just expired at the end of September 2021, where the utilization rate was 99.7%. These were the COEs that were secured in March 2021. We will continue to closely monitor the utilization rate of TCOEs issued in recent months over the respective 6-month validity period. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the COE supply from July 2020 to July 2021 was also about 30% higher. This was because we returned the additional COE quota accumulated when bidding was suspended during circuit breaker from April to June 2020, together with the closure of vehicle showrooms. This return of the additional quota was completed with the second bidding exercise in July 2021. So for the current August to October 2021 period, the COE supply is 28% lower than the preceding quarter, May to July 2021 period, with the supply being predominantly determined by deregistration. So this combination of increased demand and the lower COE supply would likely have contributed to the higher premiums in the bidding exercises since August, but has receded somewhat in the most recent bidding exercise. So any adjustment to the COE system will have knock-on effects and potentially unintended consequences on the consumer. Hence, it's important to assess whether the market-based COE system is working as intended or if there is some market failure. So let me address Mr. Faishal's suggestions in turn. First, Mr. Faishal suggested splitting the motorcycle COEs into subcategories according to vehicle classes in the same manner as riding or driving licenses, as well as allocate the COE supply for each category according to the percentage of these vehicles on our road. This is not new. Former MP Mr. Zainal Supari had in 2015 suggested this, as well as Mr. Abdul Samad, who just filed a question in this sitting. Ms. Joan Pereira had also spoken about separate quotas for motorcycles based on the different categorization. Mr. Chong Ki-Hiong also asked to create a new category of COEs for motorcycles used for delivery work. We have explained the considerations in the past, and these considerations remain relevant today. Let me reiterate. Unlike cars, the quota for motorcycle COEs is relatively small. So for example, for August to October 2021, about 440 Category D COEs were available in each bidding exercise. If we were to divide this further, there will be even smaller quotas for each subcategory. This will likely result in greater volatility and potential increases in COE prices. Of note, allocating subcategory quota based on the prevailing split in motorcycle population has its challenges. The percentage of Class 2B motorcycles registered fluctuates across the years and even from month to month. So it will be therefore very difficult for us to arbitrarily select an allocation basis. Second, Mr. Faishal also suggested abolishing COEs for all Class 2B motorcycles and to replace it with a balloting system. I understand that the intent is to make COEs affordable for those who need a motorcycle for livelihoods, but this is not necessarily better. Such a two-tiered COE system is not equitable, since other types of vehicles, such as cars and commercial vehicles, can also be used for livelihoods. More importantly, such a system requires us to arbitrarily set a price. This is different from BTO flat prices. And if the price is too low, it will increase demand and crowd out those who truly need the motorcycle for a living and are prepared to pay a bit more for the value it brings. Third, on allowing motorcycle buyers to bid for COE under their own name. This is already allowed, as individuals can bid for COEs through the ATMs. However, many motorcycle buyers still choose to go through dealers, as this will allow them to get their motorcycles immediately using the TCOEs that the dealer has already secured. A removal of this option could have unintended consequences for buyers and will have to be studied carefully. Fourth, the five-year COE renewal option is something we created for vehicle owners who need their vehicles for only 5 years instead of 10 years. If we were to allow COEs to renew for 5 years repeatedly, there will be fewer COEs recycled for bidding. This would tilt the current balance between existing and prospective vehicle owners. Fifth, on establishing a preferential additional registration fee or PAF rebate for motorcycles. Such suggestions to extend the PAF scheme for cars to other vehicles have been raised in this House before. The PAF system is intended to encourage early turnover of older vehicles and to keep our car population relatively young. PATH needs to be taken in totality with a significantly higher ARF on cars. Motorcycles pay significantly lower ARF with a base rate of 15% of the vehicle's OMV compared to 100% for cars. We do not have plans to extend the PATH scheme to other vehicle types. We have already kept related costs for motorcycles lower. The 6 monthly road tax amount is $31 for Class 2B motorcycles as compared to $156 for cars of engine capacity less than 600 cc. ERP rates for motorcycles are also generally half that of cars. Last but not least, on the issue of parking. The parking provisions depend on the nature of the development and the geographical zone, including whether it is near public transport. We acknowledge that the food delivery sector has grown rapidly in recent years and that commercial developments have their own circumstances and needs as well. Commercial building owners are strongly encouraged to set aside motorcycle parking lots for food delivery riders and to provide a reasonable parking grace period for them. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we understand the concerns on the impact of COE prices on motorcycle owners who ride for a living and are mindful of the needs of motorcycle owners. I would like to assure the House that we are monitoring this situation closely and will take action if warranted. Thank you.
The question is that Parliament do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion say aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order.